beautiful wavy and curlies, and welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, hello and welcome. Today I'm going to briefly be talking to you about some of the common causes of wet frizz and frizz in general, but more importantly I'm really going to be focusing on wet frizz and protein. So if you're interested, if it's something that you want to know more about, then stick around and keep on watching. Okay, so we're not going to waste any time and we're just going to dive right in. Number one is build-up. If you have build-up, if you maybe haven't clarified for a while, then it might be time to clarify your hair, as build-up can cause frizz. And to clarify, you can either use a shampoo with sulfates, apple cider vinegar, or you can use clay. I personally prefer to use a shampoo with sulfates. Number two, check your products for humectants, and in particular check if your products contain glycerin. I am going to do a separate video more in depth on this topic, but basically from my personal experience, in the past I've never noticed glycerin having any effect on my hair, but recently as we're changing seasons and we're moving from hot summer weather to cold foggy autumn weather, I've noticed the day after wash day I've been losing my definition and my hair's been getting frizzier than it usually does. So that's something to bear in mind. If you think that this might be the culprit for you, just do a quick Google search to find some information about it, or like I said, I will do an in-depth video about this in the future, so make sure you watch out for that. Number three, I'm sure most of you are doing this step just fine, but make sure that you are conditioning your hair properly. You really want to make sure that you're working the conditioner into each hair strand really well. Then at this stage you can start to detangle however you choose, either with your fingers or with a brush. I personally prefer with a brush, as for me it's quicker and I know that every hair strand is getting saturated in conditioner and water. And then you really want to make sure that you're swishing to condition, to really make sure that that conditioner gets into the hair. I know that some days, wash days are rushed, so maybe you haven't put as much love into this step as you normally would, and that can create frizz. So that is another thing to bear in mind. Number four, another cause of frizz or wet frizz is a thing called flash drying. I personally have never experienced this, but it's when you put a product in your hair and your hair just has a weird reaction and just suddenly feels dry even though it's soaking wet, and it dries really quickly. I think from what I gather, aloe seems to be the main culprit of this. And number five, and with this point I want to remind you that a little bit of frizz is normal. So just little things like if I wash and style my hair and I've still got my rings on, when I'm styling my hair, a few hair strands will like snag on my ring and separate from their clumps. So that causes a little bit of frizz. Again, sometimes when I'm doing my hair, I've got my Invisibobble on my wrist. Again, my hair catches on that, that can cause frizz. Air drying or diffusing may cause you some degree of frizz, because with diffusing you're manipulating your hair, air is blowing at it, so it can create some frizz. And with air drying, depending on what clothes you're wearing, as your hair is drying and it's moving about on your clothes, that can cause friction and frizz. But some frizz is a little normal, and it's completely normal to gain some functional frizz as the days go on. You may find a refresh technique or method that helps you to tame it, or if you're like me, you might want to just let it be and make the most of the volume. Now, on to the most important part of this video. Now, this is the part where you're going to want to take notes. Okay, so if you know that the previous things I mentioned are not the cause of your frizz, if you've clarified recently, you know that you're conditioning well, you haven't had flash drying, but you've still got a lot of frizz, but more importantly, wet frizz, which is when wet, your hair doesn't want to go into its little curl family, into its little clumps, and it will break up and you'll get wet frizz. So if you still have wet frizz, then you probably need protein and your hair is more than likely over moisturized. I know that when we see frizz, it's like automatically programmed into our minds that frizz means our hair is dry and it needs moisture, but that's not always the case. Before I carry on, I want to include some other signs that your hair needs protein. So number one is wet frizz. Number two is your hair loses definition very, very quickly. Back in February, I would scrunch out my cast and my waves would immediately drop and I'd lose all my definition. So that's a sign that your hair needs protein. Number three is if your hair is like limp, it's dry, but it feels soft. So it kind of looks a bit dry, a bit frizzy, like it needs a good deep conditioning, but when you touch it, it kind of feels soft. Another sign is that your hair feels mushy. This is a hard symptom to describe. You'll know if it happens to you because, I don't know, there's just no way to describe it. It just feels mushy. And in my case, and I'm noticing that when I touch my hair now, is my hair will kind of feel cold and almost damp. It's not, it's completely bone dry. It hasn't got wet since I washed it a few days ago. Well, that's my sign. I haven't seen anybody else talk about this one. When I made my post on Instagram about this, I was mainly focusing on the fact that wet frizz meant that your hair needs protein. But somebody also commented and let me know that wet frizz can also mean that your hair has had too much protein, and I wasn't aware of this, so that's another thing to bear in mind. So before I carry on talking about how to add protein into your hair, I'm just going to quickly tell you about the signs of protein overload. So wet frizz being one of them, your hair feels really dry, really brittle, and it feels like straw. Like your hair kind of is limp, your waves or curls are like wonky. I had protein overload. I'll insert a photo. I had it about a couple months ago now, and at first I wasn't sure what it was. I knew that something was wrong with my hair. My waves weren't sitting properly. They looked all kinds of wonky, especially after wash day. And it turns out my hair was in protein overload. And another thing that I like to do to test, what I'll do to test out is I will kind of pull my hair like this, and if my hair is in protein overload, it will just automatically snap. How do I add protein to my hair? If you think that your hair needs protein, an easy way to fix this is by using products that contain protein. The easiest way to look for protein in your products is to look at the ingredient list for the words hydrolyzed. Usually that'll be followed by other words such as hydrolyzed silk protein or hydrolyzed wheat or hydrolyzed keratin, and hydrolyzed just means that it's small enough to penetrate the hair. There are other proteins out there, but I find as long as you look out for the word hydrolyzed, they're the most common, the most popular, and it's easy to spot them in the ingredient list. Another thing to know when you're looking for protein in your ingredient list is that the higher up it is on the list, the more concentrated it is. If my hair needs a protein boost or protein treatment, I like to use EcoSlay Matcha Boost. And a really inexpensive treatment that I love to do is the gelatin treatment. So maybe I will film a tutorial on how I do that in the future. Other common protein treatments that are really popular is rice water rinse or beer rinse, but I personally prefer the gelatin. So when my hair needs protein, the products that I tend to gravitate towards the most are my Floracurl products. That is the cream shampoo, the leave-in conditioner, curl activating lotion, and curl defining gel. I do have a discount code for you guys that I will leave in the description box. I don't make any commission off of this. It's just a little something to help you guys save money if you want to purchase their products. A question that I get asked a lot as well is how much protein should I be using? How do I know when to stop How often should I use protein? There isn't a set answer, and this is where it comes down to you and your hair and listening to your hair. So a trick I like to do now before my wash day, which is something that you saw me do previously in the video, is I feel my hair. So remember, if it feels soft, mushy, damp, cold, then you need protein. And remember, if it feels dry, straw-like, and brittle, then stay away from the protein. I will do a separate video on protein overload and more info on that. So if my hair feels like it needs protein, then on my next wash day, I will try to make sure most of my products contain protein. If my hair is feeling dry, kind of straw-like, a bit brittle, then I know that my hair doesn't need protein and I will not use it in my wash day. If my hair feels normal, then I know that my hair is balanced and my wash day can be a mix of products without protein and products with protein. So, I think I have covered everything. I hope you got a lot of notes, a lot of useful information. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Of course, if you have any other questions, make sure to leave them in the comments. And if you want to check out my Instagram, I've already made a few posts covering this topic as well, if you want to have a look. And I'm doing a series currently of the products that I use and love and the important ingredients that they contain or don't contain. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. And my DMs are always open. I always try to respond to every single message that I receive. So if you are really struggling, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and I will try my best to help you as much as I can. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button so I know that you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful, and subscribe so that you can see more videos in the future and that you don't miss any of my content. Bye!